Hi, this is Maggie from Design Code Debug Repeat. Welcome to the channel. If you're here because you want to learn to program in Java, you're in the right place. This is the 5th video in the Introductory Programming in Java full course. After an overview of an input processing output program in Java in video 2, we dug into numeric and text data types, variables, and assignment statements in videos 3 and 4. In this video, we'll focus on obtaining input from the console with the scanner class. I recommend you open Eclipse and program along with me. It's a great way to learn. Let's get right into it. We've written a few programs now that get input from the user with the scanner. In Moon Weight Age Calculator, we prompt the user for their weight and age and read those in and then do some calculations. And in Word Data, we prompt the user for a word and we read that in and then do some manipulations with the word. So what's the big deal? Why do we need a whole video on reading with the scanner? In the prior videos, I carefully selected examples of reading data in that would work and appear simple because the focus was on other aspects of programming in Java. So it certainly can be simple, and with just a little bit more information, you'll be able to program effortlessly around the small aspects of the scanner that aren't quite so simple. I'm going to write a new program called statsheet.java. I think it's important periodically to refresh your memory on how we write a program in Eclipse. I already have a project here, but if you don't have a project yet, remember to create one by right-clicking in the Package Explorer and choosing New Java Project, and then give your project a name and make sure the Create Module Info.java box is unchecked. Once you have your project, right-click on the default package or the SRC folder if there's no code yet, and choose New Class. Make sure the package box is empty, and if it isn't, delete what's there. I'm going to call the class statsheet and check the public static void main string args box to save myself some typing, and then I'll click Finish. Right now, I have a student writing a character generator program for a role-playing game, and I thought that was a good example for what I want to show you. We're just going to do something very simple here right now. We'll prompt the user for some character stats and the character name. And to keep this short, I'll just prompt for strength, wisdom, and charisma, and then the name. These statistics should be integers. So I'm going to delete the to-do comment and declare some variables, strength, wisdom, and charisma of type int, and name of type string, with just a comment over them, character traits, because I think the names are pretty self-explanatory here. Now, we're going to obtain those values from the user, so we'll want to create a scanner. Scanner is a class that will allow us to read different types of data from a stream of input. For now, we'll be reading from the input stream called system.in, which is the standard input stream. In Eclipse, that's the console. Because scanner isn't a built-in Java type or part of java.lang, the package that is automatically imported to our program by the Java Virtual Machine, we will need to import the package that the scanner is in. At the top of the file, I'll write import java.util.scanner. And in my variable declaration area, I'll write scanner standard in. And a comment to obtain user input. Now let's write the input section of this program. I'll start with a comment, obtains player stats from the user. And then we'll create the scanner. Remember, you'll always have a line of code like this when you're using the scanner to get input from the console. Standard in equals new scanner, system in. When we want to obtain input from the user, we need to display a prompt first, telling the user what we expect them to type. For the prompt, use system.out.print, because this will leave the insertion point, the blinking bar, on the same line as the prompt, which is standard for console programs. I'll write system.out.print what is the character's strength stat, and then to read an integer value into an int variable, we'll put the variable name equals, and then standardin.nextInt. I'll write similar code to obtain the wisdom and charisma stats. Now we'll want to get the character's name. There are two options for reading a string. One is next, and the other is next line. Each has advantages and disadvantages. Let's use next line first. I'll write system out print what is the character's name, and then name equals standard in dot next line. Now that we're done getting values from the user, we'll close the scanner with standard in dot close. And let's just print these now, one to a line. I'll write system out print in quotes strength colon plus strength, etc. for all four traits. Okay, and let's run the program, and I'll enter the stats for my character R2 the Barbarian. So I'll type 18, 18, 18. Come on, it's R2. And then I'll type R2 the Barbarian. And hang on a minute, it didn't let me type the name. It just started printing the results. If I run it again, the same thing happens. Let's try changing the next line to next and look at the problems that presents, and then we'll talk about how the scanner works and how to get around this issue. Okay, so I've changed that to next, and let's run the program. 18, 18, 18, and it looks like it's going to let me type the name this time. I'll type R2 the Barbarian. And it says my character's name is R2. So that is not a satisfactory solution. What's going on? Here is Oracle's documentation of the scanner. You can see there are next methods for most of the primitive data types, such as next byte, next double, next float, etc. I'll include a link to this page in the description. Most of the scanner next methods, including next int, next double, all the other next primitive type methods, and including next, work by taking the next token out of the input stream. A token is a unit of text that's between whitespace delimiters. I'm saying text because everything the user types is text. If the user types characters that are numeric, such as -4.5, those text characters have to be converted to a numeric type, and that only works properly if the user types something that can be converted to the numeric type you're trying to read. Otherwise, we'll get an exception, and the program will crash. But if you think of the input stream as a series of characters, some of them are whitespace, and some aren't. Whitespace includes the characters space, tab, and new line and carriage return characters, such as when you press enter after you've typed a value. Tokens are the text between whitespace characters. So the input stream we created when we ran our program looked like this. 18 and then a carriage return. I'm going to write that as /n, which is an escape character that moves the cursor down to the next line. Technically a line feed and not a carriage return, but close enough, and I want us to get familiar with escape characters. Then 18/n, then 18/n, and then R2 space the space barbarian /n. Except in the first version of the program, we never even got to type R2 the Barbarian. Can you identify the tokens? They're the things between the whitespace characters. So we have 18, 18, 18, R2, the, and barbarian. Now our scanner calls are next int, next int, next int, and then either next line, we tried that first, or next. We tried that second, and it worked slightly better. Let's look at how our second set of scanner methods interacted with this input stream. The first next int took the first 18 out of the input stream because that is the first token in the stream. The second next int took the next token, which is the second 18, and the third next int took the next token, the third 18. Then next took the next token, which is R2, leaving two tokens, the and barbarian, and some whitespace. So you don't want to use next if your string might have whitespace in it, because then your string is composed of multiple tokens, and next will take only the first token. Let's look at how our first set of calls interacted with the input stream. To understand this, we need to understand how nextLine works. It doesn't take a token from the input stream. What nextLine does is it takes whatever the next thing in the input stream is up to and including the next new line character. So our next ints worked the same, taking the first three 18s, the first three tokens. But that left a new line in the input stream after the third 18. So when we used next line, which takes all of the text up to and including the first new line, it simply took that new line. We didn't even get the chance to type our character's name. Fortunately, this is easily solved. We want to remove that new line from the input stream after reading any sort of token if we want to then use next line. And we can do that using a next line. Let's go back to the old code with name equals standardin.nextLine. Now remember how that didn't allow us to type in our character's name? That's because it was consuming the new line left over from the last next int instead. We want to use a next line to consume a new line, then use next line to get our character's name. So we'll put standardin.nextLine over the code that reads the character's name, and I'll put a comment over it, consumes the new line left in the input stream. Note that we're not going to store that in a variable because we don't want to do anything with it except get it out at the input stream. And now when I enter my character's stats, it allows me to type the full name, and it's storing the full name. We'll use the scanner again later to read from a file, and we'll learn a few more features then. For now, remember that most next methods are token-based, but next line works differently. Remember how it works differently. It reads everything up to and including a new line, whereas the token-based methods ignore whitespace and read only a single token each. You will therefore need to consume a new line after using a token-based method before using next line. I've got an auto-graded exercise in the description of this video to help you practice with this. Click on the link and you'll go to an exercise that allows you to practice with this exact code. If you get stuck, come back and watch the video. I'll also upload the code to my GitHub repository, and there will be a link in the description. The best practice will be to write this program from scratch in Eclipse, and then make some changes to it. Add some more stats and mix text with numeric input to confirm you understand when and how to consume a new line after reading a token before reading a full line. When you're feeling confident with the scanner, come back for more with the next video. As always, have fun and keep coding.